As Sherman's right wing approached Columbia, they will encounter the last fortified position held by Confederate forces at Congaree Creek. This tributary, which empties into the Congaree River, is a major natural obstacle. While not necessarily deep or wide, it flows through a swampy basin whose banks are steep and high. Crossing the Congaree Creek here is the State Road. This is one of the finest roads in South Carolina, and the road that the Union's 15th Army Corps will travel up. The bridge is what Confederates will defend. When Union forces arrive, they found the Confederates in a very strong position. There were 3 lines of defense. The third line was the earthworks that were built along the northern side of the Congaree Creek from the Congaree River westward for 4 miles. Behind the earthworks was Colonel George Dibrell and his 2,000 cavalry soldiers, part of General Joe Wheeler's command. These troops fought dismounted, which will mean 500 of those troops will be relegated to holding horses, leaving just 1,500 effectives. These troops were concentrated over a half-mile and centered on the bridge. They were supported behind the earthworks with 4 12-pound howitzers of Captain Canapaw and his Lafayette light artillery. Their left flank was protected by the Chatham Battery, made up of 4 12-pound Napoleons. They were located on the east side of the Congaree River, just below Columbia. Their right flank was defended by elements of General Matthew Butler's cavalry. They remained mounted. The second line of defense was the creek itself. Not so much the water, but the steep banks located at the base of the earthworks. The first line of defense will be the temporary breastworks, or in this case, tete de pont, or bridgehead. This structure was made up of logs and fence posts and was considered a strong position. It arced from the bank of the creek on the left to a ravine on the right. Behind this wooden wall was 1,000 troops made up of infantry and dismounted cavalry. Also behind this barrier are 2 artillery pieces of the Wiggins Battery. When General Butler did his inspection before the battle, he told Colonel Dibrell they could hold the bridge against any force that comes against it. Dibrell wasn't so sure and asked permission to destroy the bridge in advance. Butler never responded, and so the bridge remained. First to arrive on the scene around 10 a.m. will be the advanced skirmishers of the 2nd Brigade 1st Division 15th Army Corps. It was a miserable morning. Drizzle, fog, and deep mud everywhere. These skirmishers expected to see a bridge, but what they saw just looked like a flood had downed many trees. Any questions they might have had would have been answered when the 2 guns behind the tete de pont opened fire on them. In command of the 1st Division 15th Army Corps was General Charles Woods. He commanded 4,700 men divided into 3 brigades, and he had access to 18 pieces of artillery. The first thing Woods wanted to do was silence the Confederate artillery. He brought forward 5 guns. 2 were 12-pound Napoleons, 2 were 3-inch ordnance rifles, and 1 20-pound Parrott rifle. At the same time, he deploys his brigades. The 1st Brigade will remain where it is in reserve. The 2nd Brigade, commanded by Colonel Robert Catterson, formed a skirmish line on the right of State Road 300 yards back from the Tet. Its right flank was protected by the 46th Ohio. This regiment was also tasked with finding a way across the Congaree Creek. The 3rd Brigade, commanded by Colonel George Stone, formed a double skirmish line to the left of State Road. Its flank will be defended by the 4th Iowa. They were also to find a way across the creek. It will take 2 hours to get everyone in position. Shortly after 12 noon, Woods responds with force. The 2 Napoleons remain silent while the 3 rifled guns will fire at the Confederate artillery behind the Tet. After only 9 rounds the Confederates withdraw their artillery. The 46th Ohio reached the creek and found Confederate forces strongly entrenched on the other side. They followed the creek downstream until they found a place to cross. Woods then ordered them to send a reconnaissance party across and the rest to return to State Road. Meanwhile, on the other side of State Road, the 4th Iowa came across a Confederate outpost located in the swamp basin and overwhelmed them with gunfire, causing them to evacuate to the earthworks. The 4th Iowa will continue for a half-mile before finding a place to cross. Woods ordered them to cross, but not to attack until reinforcements arrive. They hoped to surprise the Confederates and maybe capture their entire force. However, Butler's cavalry will spot them and fire on them, drawing more fire from muskets and artillery from the earthworks. Around 2 p.m., elements of the 3rd Brigade cross the ravine and start moving in a flanking position on the Confederates' right at the Tet. Armed with 7-shot Spencers, Union troops overwhelmed the Confederate right. The Confederates will shift men from the left side to reinforce the right. Seeing the weakening of the left side, Catterson ordered his 2nd Brigade to advance. With the Confederates behind the Tet being overwhelmed by firepower on their right, overwhelmed by manpower on the left, and musket and artillery fire going on behind them, the orders are given to evacuate. There was a race to the bridge and to safety. This is what Woods was waiting for. Knowing all those men would have to cross over the bridge, he then ordered the 2 Napoleons to open fire towards the bridge. He didn't want to destroy it. He fired airburst rounds at the bridge to spray shrapnel down on the retreating troops. 36 rounds will be fired at the Confederates. As the last Confederate soldier stepped onto the bridge, the order was given to set it on fire. Previously prepared with kindling doused in turpentine, the flames quickly spread. But with all the rain and mud now on the bridge didn't catch fire easily. Seeing the fire, 3 companies from the 46th Ohio rushed to the bridge to extinguish the flames. They used boards to lever the burning logs off the bridge. They took heavy fire from musket and artillery, especially canister coming from the earthworks, but were able to extinguish the fire. It's now around 2:15. The 4th Iowa has been reinforced, and they begin their assault on the earthworks. Confederates did not stand and fight. Orders are given to fall back. By 2:30, Confederates evacuate the earthworks and escaped up State Road for about 3 miles. Union troops will follow for 1.5 miles and then dig in, expecting a counterattack that will never come. Butler's cavalry made one charge at the advancing Union troops, but was repulsed. By 4 p.m. the fighting is over. While one of the largest engagements Sherman will have in South Carolina, the casualties were relatively light. Union reports generally agree. Fewer than 7 were killed and less than 30 wounded. On the Confederate side there are no official reports. However, Emma LeConte, who lived in Columbia at the time, maintained a diary, and she wrote on the day of the battle, "All day wagons and ambulances have been bringing in the wounded over the muddy streets and through the drizzling rain." Researcher, Lieutenant Colonel Drake, who was also part of Wheeler's cavalry, records in his book of Confederate casualties, a total of 33 for Congaree Creek. 2 days later, on February 17, 1865, Mayor Goodwin will surrender Columbia to Colonel Stone.